Well, hey guys, old Blue Cord back. Thanks a lot for looking at all the other videos I've done. This one's going to be mostly on the Sprinter van. And of course, as I'm starting the video, somebody's fired up a Detroiter in the background. I think they're sucking leaves. So, never fails, but I apologize for the background noise. But this is an outdoor type deal, and it is cold today. Let's see what we got here get the IR out. Yeah. 30, 38, 39. Now we got a nice sunshine, as you can tell. It's solar flaring bad, or making a flare on the camera. But we've had a couple cold nights, and I'm going to do, this is kind of going to be like a cold start video. A guy asked on the Sprinter Source. Of course, he's from up north in Chicago, and I can't blame him. He's a little nervous about his vehicle starting all the time. And I've got some experience with it. I did live in upstate New York for a good part of my life, for about the first 20-something years. And guys use diesels up there too. You know, you've got to kind of pay attention to them a little bit. But a couple things you want to do is a good dual battery setup. So in this case, I've got the original starting battery right here. But then I also got a second battery in the back of the vehicle, of course, for my heat and air conditioning too. So that's going to give you twice the capacity, hopefully. And then hopefully give you a little confidence in your starting, because you are sometimes going to have to really crank on a diesel to get it going. Another kind of cool thing, and I've just kind of looking, is you can look in this hose on these early models, and you can see mine's a little bit foggy, so the fluid, the diesel fuel is probably getting a little bit thick. I live in the southern United States. I don't believe they generally treat their fuel. If you're up north, they treat their fuel to thin it out with usually kerosene. I don't know what percentage, especially with modern diesels. I apologize for that, but back in my day, it wouldn't be too surprising to have 30% kerosene in the dead of winter. I've heard people running 50%. I don't know if that's recommended on modern diesels because of the pump. The pump needs lubrication. Depending on what style pump it is, and that's from the paraffin and the diesel fuel. So I probably would always just mind and do what everybody else does on a modern diesel, but this isn't really a modern diesel. Now obviously this is 2003, built 2002. It's the 5-cylinder. I guess it's the 613. I always forget to look that up. But it's a common rail, which everybody likes to throw that term around, which is basically standard fuel injection. It's got one injector per cylinder. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and start it up. So first thing I do is, if you guys know my videos, I check my battery voltage before I do anything. And obviously it's kind of on the low side. Now, that battery by date is probably about 5 years old, but I know for sure this battery was stone dead when I bought this vehicle, and it had sat for 3 years, so it literally didn't have 1 volt on it. So I was able to put a rejuvenator on it and excuse me, get it going, but it is questionable. So having 2 batteries, probably a good idea. Now I did start this vehicle, just to be fair, and again I showed you that it's ice cold because I'm not trying to play around and show you how to start a warm vehicle, starting a cold diesel. I started about 3-4 days ago and I let it run. So, and the reason why I'm going to run it some, and I noticed when I put this water valve on here real quick to cut the water off, it's got a kink in the hose, and I don't think I'm getting really good flow, and I need to kind of just fix this up. I've got the valve in a bad place where I can't turn it, and I really need to kind of tidy that up a little bit. Now the valve is working good because it stops hot water from going to the normal valve, which is malfunctioning, and then to the heat system. So I was able to cut the heat off and then just have my air conditioning unit on my roof. And for a lot of you guys know, I did the Outquit Pro. It's up there, and we'll turn that on in a minute. We're just going to get this started first, not fool with that. So all right, so we got voltage, we believe we got fuel, the vehicle is ice cold. I have no other starting aids. We're not using any ether or any other kind of starting aids. I really don't recommend that in modern vehicles. It's just up to you. I did look at the fuel filter. It is not heated. Now up north you can use heat mats under the battery, keep the battery warm. Use a lead acid batteries, obviously, but you can put a heat mat underneath there. You can also heat. You can also try to heat the fuel up. There's heaters and things you can do for the fuel tank. You know, we're talking way up north, probably farther than normal latitudes of lower 48 states, but they get these things to start in Alaska. I'm sure we can get this one to start. So, okay, I'm going to pause it. I'm going to move the meter to the front so we can watch it, and then we'll go from there. Thanks. Okay, so we're in the cab. Now the key is totally out of the ignition. Again, we're ice cold. I've set the meter up with the battery voltage reading right there, but I don't want to block the telemetry on this, so I'm gonna jump in and ooh, it's cold in here. Let's see what I've got a regular thermometer in here we can look. I think, yeah, 42. Now, a nice thing, like I said, out in the south, you get sunshine. So you've got a hard starting vehicle, and I've got the hood open. You could park it in the sun. So when you think about it, you'd park over there by the Jeep with the sun facing this way, and it can heat the vehicle up. So if you have trouble starting in the morning, let that sunshine, you know, warm that engine block up and all that metal. So what we've got here is on a diesel, we've got glow plugs. And glow plugs are pretty simple instruments. They're just like a resistive element. And when you turn the key on, I'm just using this as an example, the tip is going to get hot. And it'd probably get like red hot. And most glow plugs are like some kind of material like Inconel or something like that. And then you have a wire at the top. And it's just a resistive unit, just kind of like your toaster oven your toaster oven or some kind of resistive type heater where it glows red. And that's inside the head, heating up that area. Now your head's aluminum, so it's going to pick up pretty quick, but you got to think you're heating a large piece of aluminum with a fairly small instrument, right? So if you know your vehicle's hard starting, what we used to do, and this is where I made a quick flippant comment on the Sprinter Source forums, and then I didn't probably explain it real good, but older diesels back in my day didn't start very well. So we're talking 70s, we're talking 80s, we're talking even early 90s. And I've helped guys with diesel engines in the 2000s. A guy in the parking lot couldn't get his Ford to start the other day, and I don't think his glow plugs were working. So glow plugs are really important for a diesel. So let's go ahead and give it, and what I told them was to go ahead and click your key over, and then obviously you can see the glow plug, and then it goes off. Now a couple guys said, hey, just because the light went off doesn't mean the glow plugs aren't still on. I don't know about that. Don't have any clue. But you heated up this element, cherry red, right? You think you did. We're just going to sear at the engine. So this is hot, and that heat is transferring back and forth into the head, and that's what you want. So what I said is, when we have trouble starting a diesel, now I'm going to crank this once and just see if it starts. But what you can do is you can shut it off, and I would even remove the key and then turn it again. So you like double strike, right? And watch the beep. Okay, and then we're going to crank. Oh, it won't start. Now, I didn't give it enough chance, obviously. So I would take the key out, and I'd wait a minute. So, and when I mean a minute, I mean a minute. So I'm not going to sit here and talk for a whole minute, but I'm going to look. I guess we should watch my voltage too. I would say knock down a little bit. So when you turn these glow plugs on, let's see if we get a voltage drop. Yeah, look, it's dropping. So we're pulling. Okay. Now, I don't have the amp clamp hooked up. I may do an amp clamp if you guys run on that. I've got to find the wire. The controller's under the battery, I believe. So, yeah, we're pulling a little bit of juice here. Now, obviously, I've got the key on, so there's some other stuff going on. And, okay, that's a minute. So let's crank her, right? And a lot of times, especially with these screw-type keys, I take the key totally out of the ignition, put it back in. That way we're resetting whatever safeties, blah, 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 this and that. And I'm not using the throttle. I've got my foot way away from it, just letting the injection do its thing. Let's just crank it. And bango, we're off to the races. Holy schmoly. Now you can see we got a pretty good voltage drop, even with 2 batteries cranking. But it cranked pretty good. Can these batteries be better? Absolutely. Should they be? Well, I don't know. I'm not really too worried about starting. I really doubled up the batteries so I could use my air unit while I'm sitting, right? That's what I did that for. So, but if you're a guy that's worried about starting, I would at least make sure you have one really good battery, and that reads about 12.7 volts at rest. That's close to 100% charge on a lead acid. And I would go with 2. Now, I did read that they would put the second battery back behind that space under the seat. I don't know if I really recommend a lead acid battery in the cabin, because they can, especially under high loads or high charging, which we're going to charge here pretty good. Obviously, by the voltage we're charging. They can gas, and they can gas. It's going to be a hydrogen gas. It is dangerous, and it's flammable. Obviously, I don't smoke, but some people, not very many, but a few do. I would not keep, even with this back open and all this air, I keep my battery in the back behind the cage door, and that's my preference. Yeah, you have to run a little bit extra wires and things. I could have put it under right behind this driver's seat. It's wasted space, but I really don't think a lead acid battery in a cabin space is a real hot idea unless it's vented very well. And I'm going to make that statement. I'm sure somebody will pick me to death on that. So, all right, we're started. What do you think? I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat on because it's damn cold in here. I hope this thing works. That was another thing. I left this, and I left my IR gun in here. And of course, with cold weather, it zapped the battery on. I had to go find another battery. So, all right, we're started. So, that's my story, and that's called, I guess you can call it whatever you want, a double start or double strike. The old upstate New York crank and pray. Yeah, back in my day, I mean, you sometimes those old 6.9 and 7.3 liters, you'd have to crank them for minutes and minutes to get them going in the morning. And a lot of guys, when you're starting to get below zero and all that stuff, you're talking about leaving them run all night. And I know that's hard to believe. It's 2025, but that's what they do, you know, in the uppers, as they say, which is like Canada and Alaska and stuff. They leave those vehicles running. So don't think for a moment that, and when I'm talking running, I'm talking they run them all night long, all day, all night, never shut them off. There's no reason to. So, if you're thinking, hey, they start so great up in Alaska, you may want to ask them, people, because you get diesel fuel thickened up, and you get your batteries real cold. You're in a bunch of trouble. So there's no reason to do that. But yeah. So all right. So that's my cold start on the Sprinter. Thanks again for looking. Appreciate all y'all. I really like the Sprinter Source forums. A lot of really super smart guys on there, so it's kind of fun. And I'll be doing some more videos of this. The Jeep is next for the brakes. I'm getting the garage cleaned up and warmed up to stab that in there. So I got my brake pads, excited about that. I'll do a video on that. All right, guys, thanks a lot. Yeah, like I said, I'm going to turn the heat on for a minute. I might do a second video of that. But thanks a lot for looking. Old Blue Cord over and out. Bye.